All right, so this is a lot of words. I'm going to break it down. We're talking about the Sourdough for Science specific project today for SciStarter Live. So all over the world, different cultures bake their own unique breads and have for centuries, but we actually don't know all that much about the microbes that are helping the bread rise and taste delicious. And so your work on this for over a course of 14 days will help solve the mysteries that we are still trying to solve. So you're comparing the growth of microbes in different types of flour. For example, this one, which you can see in one of my screens, hopefully, this is the regular flour, this is whole wheat flour over here, and this is bread flour, which I'm gonna make you explain. All-purpose flour. Did I say regular? It's all-purpose, which is apparently not the same as regular. Is there even a regular?
No.
Okay, no regular. And it actually contributes to the taste and texture of the bread too. So we'll find out more about that soon. For all of you, this is a specific project on our SciStarter.org/education because it's a really kid-friendly and classroom-friendly project. So if you're looking to host a bunch of kids for 14 days as like someone who's hosting for holidays, this is something you can make them do so they're not too bored. Also, you can do it in a classroom just as a teacher or with your family just for funsies, and it's super easy to do. If I can do it, you can do it, I promise. When and how, you can do this anytime. There's really no specific time of the year that we need more of this information than others. It's kind of just a growing database. But I personally prefer to make sure it's around the times where we are looking at holidays, because then it's a big excuse to make a lot of bread if you want to make a lot of bread. Also, it's delicious. So if anyone else has like a favorite bread, it's definitely one of my favorites, sourdough. Never made it though, so it's kind of a shame. All right, so in terms of how to get started here, I'm going to give you some basics, and then I'm actually going to show you what the process is and what the resources are before we get to actually doing anything about the stuff in front of me. So first of all, if you have a SciStarter account, that allows you to submit the measurements that you're finding. So as long as you sign into your SciStarter account, you can access the project from that link. There's also a couple places you can get it. So there's the one on the SciStarter education page, and there's also one just on its own, and then to see those instructions and the resources. So that last one, step 3, is where you actually submit the data. So on that project page on step 2, that's where you get all the information on how to get started and do the project. And then step 3 is submitting that data. And I'm going to show you what that looks like too. So pausing here momentarily, I'm going to show you that page. So that first page that I ask you to go to for understanding what to do is on our education page. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen to that. So we'll stop my share briefly so I can show you. It'd be cool if that would be quicker. Science, awesome. So on that main page, here's the other one actually, which is also quite helpful because it gives us all of the options. Let's see, share screen again. Okay, loading, awesome. So this is not the education page. This is just the one that pops up quicker for me. So it gives you all the information on how to participate, including this link, which is my favorite link ever. This link goes to studentsdiscover.org, which is this one. Which you've seen this picture before. So the reason I show you this one is because it gives you all the information, especially tying it in with school, but also how to participate in really, really easy steps. So this is what I followed in terms of getting started. So for example, I had all my ingredients set up based on the materials list up here. I then went into the step list and said, okay, well, it says I need tablespoons. So I got my tablespoon thing. I also have little cups and such. I use different ones for this experiment if you were watching any of my posts online, but you can also use things like this. Just like, what do you call these? Deli containers. Proper terminology and all that. And you can use whatever types of flour you have on hand. So I used all-purpose, not regular, and whole wheat. I did not know this existed until today, so we'll come back to that. And you want dechlorinated water. So fun fact, dechlorinated water is not just tap water. I actually had forgotten to look into what to do for dechlorinated water. So for any of you who are also like me, where you forget to do things on time, you can take water from the tap and leave it overnight, which I forgot to do. And so instead I boiled it to get rid of all the gases, and then it became dechlorinated water. Not perfect, but it's definitely better than nothing. So there you go. Better would be what, buying dechlorinated water? It's not the thing. Okay, those are your only options. Distilled?
Distilled water.
Distilled works. So if you have distilled water on hand, that's what I almost went to go buy distilled, but then I didn't. Okay. So going through these steps, that's what I did to know exactly what to do. So you're just mixing things. You want to look at for a specific consistency. It's even listing exactly what it should look like toothpaste or applesauce here. And then keeps going through the process of doing the feeding too. So let me get out a little bit farther away. Okay. So the pH paper is probably the only thing that you really need to have fully in advance because everything else is pretty much available to you. It looks like this. I'm gonna put it over here maybe. pH paper. It made me feel like a real chemist. And honestly, I was doing real chemist stuff, so I count that as chemistry. Or this, here, I'll put it up there too. Yay! pH paper is really fun. I had a lot of fun dipping it into the starter and just be like, oh, it changed colors. So even if you're just doing some fun testing the pH of things, like I dipped it in water like 50 billion times just for fun. So just be aware. It's fun to use, so don't use it all before you actually get started. But you're going to test the pH paper. You measure what it will be. So mine were ranging from 3.5 up to 6, I want to say, or 5 or something. And so mine ranged all over the place and was getting more and more low in number, which makes it more acidic, right?
The number was getting closer to 1.
Yes, acidic.
That's acidic.
Almost a chemist. You also have to do some measuring. So I have this lovely ruler thing that's in metric. So I used millimeters that I will then have to change to centimeters when I submit the data. So all of this said and done, you have all the instructions here. But one of the things that I recommend to all of you too, if you're doing this project, is that you look at the actual data submission form before you get started. So for example, this is where your data is going to be submitted. And when you go on here, first of all, you log in as yourself because otherwise you can't submit anything. It asks for the basics and it's per flour type. So for this one, for example, drop something. For this one, for example, I would maybe say the all-purpose flour, which is it unbleached or bleached?
It's unbleached.
Unbleached. Unbleached all-purpose. This is what happens when I don't have the bag. And as for a hypothesis, if you want to know a little bit more about what you expect to have happen, like what the smell will be like, what the bread will taste like at the end, whatever you want to do. And then it goes through the process of everything else. So you're looking at the date of when you get started, temperature of the room. It even asks you if you want to do Celsius or Fahrenheit. Celsius is generally the go-to. So if you have access to doing Celsius for science, that would be most helpful. Height in centimeters. Aromas, this is where I would recommend definitely looking through to see what type of options you have for the scent or what they recommend as different scents for you. I did a lot of like, well, it smells sour, but that is not the only thing you need to know. Like looking at sour just by itself doesn't really give you information about what kind of sour. Is it lemony? Is it capery? Is it apple fruitiness sour? Is it like a berry? There's a lot of options.
Multiple choices.
That's a good question. Let me see. Nope. You have to pick one. Yeah, that is too bad, actually. If you do actually have a difficulty figuring this out, though, there is the other visual observations where even though it's visual here, if you have something to say about like, okay, it kind of smelled like this, but it really was this, you can write it in here as like, okay, I know I couldn't add a second one, but here's what my other thoughts are. So don't let that limit you because it's good science to be specific. So not a problem there. It gives you pH level there as well. And then there was one other, where was the area? pH after mixing. It gives you the same ones all the way through. At the very end, so when you're done with the 14th day, that's when on the 15th day you did the last check. And then it gives you an opportunity to actually upload your data sheet. So for anyone who likes spreadsheets like I do, I actually kept a spreadsheet separate. And I'm going to be adding all that stuff all together into the document once. So that spreadsheet is being kept safe elsewhere, so it doesn't like reset. I look at this form every once in a while to double check that I'm giving the right answers. But otherwise, I'm putting on a spreadsheet so that I can put it onto the this form later. And putting up a spreadsheet or adding your completed data sheet, in this case, typos happen. That's what they want to make sure that we're checking for. So in case we have any typos in between transcribing, that's why we want to do this. If you have pictures of your starter, they want to see as many as you have just for fun, not just for fun, just to see like what type of observations you're making in comparison to what it actually visibly looks like. So it's very thorough, and then you just hit submit at the end. So being that this is over 14 days, especially, that's why I have my other spreadsheet too, which I have right here. Spreadsheet. It's beautiful. Okay, going back. All right, so that said, we've got all of our different steps here. It goes through for in between. So when you are done doing the setup, it has you go through the same steps every time. So once you've set it overnight, it's been sitting for 24 hours and you're doing the next step for feeding. There's a couple things you do. I actually have a video of it, so I'll switch back to that so you guys can see that. Okay, so we looked at that. Okay, so this was one of the examples of the feeding process. So I took this video yesterday to show my most recent one where I was measuring, I was recording, I was cleaning things off as I used them to make sure there was no cross-contamination. In this case, I was doing the measurement and the aroma testing. So from basic memory, it was sour, right? And I might have gone with something more specific when I actually wrote it down, right? That's me using the pH paper. So in this time, it was, I think, started at 3.5 for both, or one of them at least. And then checking the temperature too. I took the temperature of the starter as well as the surrounding area. So in my case, I have one of these temperature controls sitting on a wall, but I also have this one actually put in the starter, which helped me also pull some stuff out for the pH paper. So you can do more measurements than what they actually suggest just for your own sake too, which is also why having your own data sheet is helpful. Have your own data sheet. You can measure anything you want, especially if you're a teacher. Having measurements for all kinds of things is helpful too. So you don't have to stop at just this. I'm trying to think of what other measurements would be helpful for anyone given. Maybe if you use different, if you're in a classroom and you have kids with different size containers, you could see the difference between all of them and why. You can think about those things. You can measure viscosity or talk through like what the consistency of it is. Maybe that would be under your other observations for visual. We'll talk about this in a moment here, but there were times where there was a layer of liquid on top of the starter and I was looking at it like, ooh, what is that? And I wrote it down, but I didn't know what it was until very recently. So it'll be, I'll explain that, or I won't explain that, Alex will. Because he knew I was gonna Google it. This is me refeeding it, or feeding it, I guess. So putting another tablespoon of the flour in there along with the dechlorinated water, measuring it once more, and taking the pH level one last time. And there's Rosie in the background being all cute and dog-like. And then it gets put away. That's about it. Okay, I'm gonna pause right here in case there's anything burning on anyone's minds as to what on earth to do, because I just gave you a lot of information. Any questions so far? There's so many of us in the Zoom. Hi, everyone. Happy to have you. Has anyone done this specific project before who's on here? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not is okay. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll share my screen again. So one last thing before we keep moving on to actually saying, hey, you're done with the project. Now let's actually use the starter to do something. The North Carolina State University actually recently published findings on doing this project. They did a really massive version of it where they did a ton of different types of flour and did a full analysis of the bacterial diversity. So for anyone who wants some fun terminology to use in terms of a classroom and explain certain things to students, bacterial diversity was really exciting for me because my starter as it sits right now is relatively stable. Probably. But I'm in day 6. So right now, the bacterial diversity should be at its peak still before it starts normalizing into specialized bacterial communities that are specific to that starter at that point. Right now, it's like all kinds of stuff to see what will stay alive throughout its entire lifetime. And then in addition to knowing that information from North Carolina State University, they also gave note that all this information that they collected on the bacterial diversity and the way it changed over time helps us to understand if we're able to enable bakers to deliberately select for specific sourdough starter and bread characteristics. So I am curious if Alex here might have any thoughts on like what he looks for in a sourdough starter for when it's ready. And I have a slide for that in a moment here, so we'll come back to that. But just so you're aware of the types of questions that come up. Okay, cool. And if you're interested in that article, Roland just dropped it into the chat too, so you can learn more. Excellent. Cool, thank you. All right, can I make you go into the camera area? Sweet. All right, instead of just a picture, I'm bringing a live human to join me. This is Alex.
Hi.
I'm gonna quiz him on a couple of things just to understand some of the things that you might experience while you're doing this project. So the first one I had, because it started happening and I was like, what is this? Was what does it mean to have a layer of liquid on top of the starter?
So the layer of liquid that can form sometimes, it's usually all of the byproducts from the yeast. So the yeast, which is the specific types of bacteria that you're looking for in your sourdough starter, it's eating everything it can get its hands on, and some of those things don't end up being digested and turned into CO2 gas. A lot of it turns into alcohol, and that's not great. It'll start to kill off other yeasts. So if you're starting to get that layer of liquid, you want to, usually it means it's too warm or you're not feeding it enough. So a good way to counteract that without bulking up your starter, because no one needs a gallon of sourdough culture. A great way to do that is either move it to a darker, colder location, or if that's not an option, like here in our apartment, it's pretty warm. Great way is to put it in the refrigerator during the day, and then take it out and feed it at night and leave it out overnight when it's a little cooler inside. So yeah, most of that liquid is bacteria byproduct.
Gross.
Yeah,
Gross.
there's another word for it, but
Nice and gross. That happened a lot to one of mine specifically. The one that was, oh yeah, I didn't even have it out. I'm sorry, friends. Do you want to put them in order?
Sure.
The one that had the most of that was the all-purpose flour one, which I don't know if we can. Roland, would you mind spotlighting the? Yeah. Ooh, later. Okay. Yeah. So in the corner, you should be able to see this. The all-purpose one often had the layer. In fact, doesn't? No, I mean not really.
No, that's good.
Hooray! It's good. And then this one. Although I did mention a lot of bubbles on the form as well. On my data sheet, I was like, "There's bubbles everywhere," or like at 30% bubbliness and whatnot. So those random things are good to mention, but it's also good to know what to do about it, like changing the temperature. It was pretty warm in here for a lot of the days, and so they just kind of baked. Sorry, sourdough starter. What makes a sourdough starter ready to be used? So if you're looking at post 14 days of the experiment, what are you looking for?
So 14 days is generally a safe time range. If you're making it at 14 days, almost always going to be ready to use, but it can happen before that if you live somewhere particularly beneficial to growing the culture. But what you're looking for is you want a pretty diverse range of bubble sizes developing in the starter. It should start it should grow about double is a good amount if you're post feeding, if you're getting it to double in size by the time you feed it again.
The starter?
The starter,
okay.
yeah, the starter, sorry, not the bubbles. But there should be some finer bubbles, and then there should be some pretty big ones. It'll also be like consistency wise, it'll be kind of it'll be very sticky, but not, it won't have like a strong like bread dough consistency. It shouldn't be like that. It should be more
viscous?
Should be more viscous, but just sticky and won't let go.
Nice. Sounds gross. Love it. That's good.
Yeah, so that is what you're looking for.
Before we do that, actually, since we are not looking at a 14-day sample, since we're looking at 5 days, what would you be most looking for to prevent disaster?
To prevent disaster for this stuff, when we go to make the bread in a little bit, it's gonna take us a lot longer to develop the dough, so we're not
Okay.
gonna be able to bake it today. Because we're gonna,
Oh, that's way overnight.
yeah, so we're gonna, instead of developing the culture further, we're going to be doing that in the total dough product.
Gotcha, okay.
Which is a really good way to get a really sour, strong, flavorful dough, so hopefully that's what we come up with. Otherwise, we might end up with pancakes.
I will be documenting it for you all as well. If it ends up being pancakes, that'll be interesting because that sounds sad. But you know, it's fine. Pancakes can be done for any day or any meal anyway, right? Breakfast or dinner. Okay, that sounds fabulous. I think we're actually okay, so in order for us to do that, we're actually gonna set that up for everyone here. So for anyone who is looking to look at the end of their sourdough starter, they've done the project, now to turn it into the bread, we're going to demonstrate that bit and explain what we're doing. I don't know anything, so I'm going to ask random questions while Alex tells me what we're doing and is narrating. So, and we are ready to get started. When ready, let me just double check because I do see some. Oh, beginning my most recent starter, I worried that it was too cool. I keep my house at 67 Fahrenheit. Nice.
That no, that is a perfect temperature. If I could keep it at 67 all the time without having a ridiculous heating bill, that'd be right where you'd want it. So temperature wise, over like 75, you're gonna get really rapid. The yeast and the bacteria is gonna go crazy. It's just like, it's just going to be going too quickly. And that is what develops the alcohol layer. If it's growing and consuming the starches and sugars in the flour too quickly, it will then start consuming other bacteria and itself. So you'll start getting little cannibal yeasts and it's not healthy. Yeah.
Cool. I kind of want to make those.
You really want to avoid that. Yeah, that's
probably made that.
Yeah, a little bit. But again, not a huge problem. If that starts happening, feed it, put it in the fridge for a little bit, let it cool down, and let it rest a little bit. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. And I don't have a gas oven as the other comment. Does that make a difference? Gas versus we don't.
The way you're for making the actual bread, no. The biggest question is how much humidity can you get in your oven, and how hot will your oven get? So big commercial bakeries cook the bread in these massive, like 5 feet wide, 5 feet deep ceramic enclosed ovens that they can pump steam directly into, and they cook them around 500 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius.
What was it?
500.
Oh no, never mind. I was like,
Yeah,
that's 70.
so you want to get high temperatures in a really dense oven. So a good way to go about that is with pizza stones, or I mean, the absolute easiest way to do it at home is in a Dutch oven. I know over lockdown, tons of people were doing no knead sourdough, which is essentially what we're gonna do today, only usually takes like a week, but you don't have to do anything. You just put the culture, all the final ingredients, mix it up in a Dutch oven and let it sit in the fridge for a week, and then you bake it later. So yeah.
There was a question about what to do about the alcohol layer.
Yeah, drain it off. Absolutely drain it off. Blending it in, be a sort of like you drinking alcohol. It gets you drunk, and it's not great for your cells, so it's not good for the yeast either.
Drunken yeast.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't want them drunk. We want them working.
didn't mean to do that to you. Oops.
Do you know where the glass cutler is? Up here,
The glass what? Oh yeah.
Cutler.
Cutlature?
cup measurer.
What the?
Perfect.
Um,
Right. So
Oh, I'm gonna drop my screen share so we can actually see what's happening. Okay, and we will spotlight the one that's on the ground.
great. Oh, another important thing, if you want to do the experiment and you also want to have dough in time for Thanksgiving, a really easy way to speed up the culture development. When you make your first batch of starter, take that water and put some raisins or some fresh grapes in it. A lot like wine, we're looking for the exact same yeast bacteria that are used in making wine, so which grow really well on grape skins. So that will get you, that'll shave off some time and get you to bread making a little bit earlier.
Nice.
So
Fun experiment.
yeah, which actually that's an important thing to mention. When you start off doing this, make sure whatever containers you're using are clean. Any contamination from like meat products or anything like that can lead to developing some really nasty things that you do not want to mess with. Similarly, if you go ahead to the extreme of like bleaching your containers, that will kill off any yeast you're trying to grow. So it needs to be clean, but there can't be any kind of like bleach or disinfectant in the containers.
For anyone who's a teacher, by the way, I have heard in previous years that you can, like for this experiment, some teachers have gone with having the kids mess with the bacterial bio by like holding it in their hands and rubbing it together. As far as like cleanliness level and whatnot, I'm wondering in that case, depending on what variables you add in for that, you don't need to turn it into bread at the end.
Yeah.
If you're worried about how much bacteria you added to the mix, you might want to be mindful of that. So you don't have to make bread at the end. You can also compost all this. I've been composting the stuff I've been taking out to feed it. We do have a question. I'm gonna check that real fast. Do you sterilize your jars first? I just cleaned mine with normal supplies. I didn't bleach it like was suggested.
So
I didn't kill
yeah,
anything.
I absolutely don't bother sterilizing it. Your goal here is to take all of the bacteria in the air, in the flour, in the water, and you're growing it specifically to achieve yeast bacterias which aren't dangerous. So sterilizing really isn't necessary unless for the sake of experiment, you really want to make sure you get only ambient yeast. If you want to go that specific, then go ahead, just make sure you rinse out the containers really well.
Makes sense. Need me to move
All
anything?
right,
Am I moving these out of the way?
I just need a bowl. So
Oh,
the
they're here.
first thing we need to do for sourdough bread, you need to figure out how much of your starter you want to use. If you've got a lot of starter, you only need a little bit of it. So I previously took a recipe I like to use and I broke it down into
This.
from this book. Where's the camera? There, no.
It's on that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I broke it down into all of the different ingredients you need for bread, and then you just say you want to use I set the levain is the word bakers use for the starter culture. It comes from French. I don't know what it actually means.
Leviathan. No, it doesn't. I'm
I
sorry. That's
wish.
a lie. That'd be cool.
But yeah, so for this, you just say, for my ratios, I said if I use 1 part of the levain, which in my case is just under half a cup. Then I need 2.2 parts of the bread flour, just a third of this quantity in whole wheat flour. And mixing flour types is also helpful for flavor. You can use all kinds of flours. Doesn't have to be a wheat flour. You can use non-gluten, non-flour grain flours, because this is flavor more than physical integrity. And then you need just a teeny amount of salt, and then for this, just over 1 part and 1/3. So, like I said, I've got about half a cup. So in volume measurements, I want 1/2 cup of starter. I want half a cup times 2.2 in
Half a cup. Wait, what, do you want a calculator? Oh, just
yeah, I'm gonna grab my calculator. I'm not great at mental math.
Running
So
teachers out there.
2.2
great at this stuff.
times, yeah, this is a great way to
Teach
make
ratios.
kids do ratios and stuff. Times 0.5. So I need 1 cup more or less of flour. Ooh, it's gonna be a teeny loaf of bread, Emma.
I'm excited. It's the perfect amount. I always end up making
Uh-huh.
my bread like live too long and then it molds, and sad time for me, basically. So to prevent that, we're making itty bitty amounts.
All right.
Love it. 1/10.
And then, yeah, so we're making a teeny amount of bread. So I'm just gonna say sprinkle in some whole wheat flour.
I love the
And again, just a tiny bit of salt. And then that's
Also, for sake of anyone who does the sourdough starter experiment, I did 1 set of each type of flour for this. They recommend doing more than one, just so you can have like a control and like compare and contrast between, and pick the one that just works out the most. So in this case, he's saying this in a very snarky, or not actually a snarky tone, but he's like, we're not gonna make any bread. You can do more. I just didn't make like a whole bunch of the jars of it for sake of having enough flour. So
yeah. So
I have a jar.
to give a reference, a 1 pound loaf of bread, you're going to need about more or less 2.5 times of what we have here.
Mhm.
And a 1 pound loaf of bread, that's gonna be your size of a normal
Loaf.
when you go to a bakery or the grocery store. They're usually about 1 pound. So yeah, just a teeny bit of bread today.
Perfect.
So first step, most important thing, figure out these numbers. This ratio is the guide to all of it. That being said, depending on where you are, ambient humidity changes city to city and time of year. So you might notice in winter you need to add more water, in summer less water. Where did I
What do
put
you
the spatula? Oh. So first thing, you're gonna want to mix your starter with your water.
I'm gonna shift over by like a couple inches.
Okay, so starter in a bowl. And I just, because of the amount I mixed together, the whole wheat and all-purpose. Water. Right around 3/4.
Oh. Half a cup of Lebon, 1 cup bread flour, some whole wheat flour, a pinch of salt, and 75 hundredths of a cup of water.
So yeah, so I'm not going to put in all of the water right now, just because I don't know at the end stage what it's gonna look like. So this is most of the water.
Want me to hold it?
Yeah, just for a minute. So that is just, no,
Almost there. Yeah, you go.
that is most of the water and all of the starter.
Mhm.
And very important right now, do not put the salt in this. People that bake a lot of times recipes want you to let salt dissolve in water just to spread it out and make it safer. If you do that, you're going to kill off a bit of the yeast
No.
and just slow down the whole process. Salt is great at killing bacteria. So yeah, don't commit a genocide of yeast. Don't do it. Next step, I'm gonna add the whole wheat flavor. The whole wheat flour because it's whole wheat flour involves more parts of a grain than say all-purpose flour.
What do you need? Spoon?
I need to know how much I want.
Some.
Just some. All right. I'm gonna go with like a tablespoon and we'll see how that goes.
Someone asked tap water or filtered.
Filter.
I didn't
Oh.
do anything for the water I just used tap water.
Yeah.
It's at this point, you don't need to worry about the chlorination in the water or anything like that because your yeast culture is healthy enough and strong enough to survive it.
Aha.
So yeah, you want to
Success.
mix in your whole wheat flour to your starter and water mixture and just let it sit for a minute or two and let it hydrate. And then we get to the fun part. Need a cup of bread flour.
These types of cups.
Exactly.
Helper.
Here's the bread flour. So I know Emma was saying earlier she used all-purpose flour for the starter, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need bread flour at all. It will just let you incorporate a little more water to your dough because bread flour has a slightly higher protein content, and that's what makes the proteins in this kind of flour is gluten for the most part, and higher gluten content allows for a stickier bread, stronger bread dough. So if you were trying to make, say, brioche or challah bread, anything that requires a lot of intense kneading, then you're definitely gonna want to go with bread dough, or sorry, bread flour for the dough. Otherwise, it won't develop enough gluten to stick together, and it'll sort of fall apart and it won't rise properly.
Are you doing that so it doesn't get condensed, or is that a
Yes,
sterilization
so
thing?
no, so it doesn't get condensed. So when measuring out flour, if you're measuring it by volume, like I am here, then you don't want to compress it. So you don't want to go in with your cup measure into the bag. You want to let it be relatively aerated. Otherwise, you'll end up with way too much flour.
That's what I did with the cookies too.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. So if that's a common thing that happens to you while baking, spoon into your cup measure, and then you'll have closer to the correct ingredient ratio.
Nice.
So yeah, let's go in with the flour. And we're just gonna give that a bit of a mix.
This is gonna be the cutest loaf of bread on the planet.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yay. So the only thing we haven't done yet is the salt.
Yep,
Sweet. Oh, and the extra water if needed.
Yeah. which we're probably gonna need quite a bit of it. So now I mix it up just really gently. There's still lots of dry flour in there. And I'm gonna go to the salt. Again, if I had more dough, I would actually measure out how much salt I'm using, but I
We're gonna
don't know how to measure out 0.05 ounces of salt, at least not without a very accurate scale, which you don't need. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just went with a little pinch, 3 fingers, and in the salt, and that's the amount of salt we're looking for.
Nice.
Just a little bit to add.
For anyone who's doing this for personal reasons and is thinking ratios are hard, make a lot of starter, and then you can just kind of go with a recipe already set up for you, and then you can measure out the starter specifically. So that's the only ratio you actually need, or the only like measurement you'll actually really need, because you'll already be done with the others. Yeah. So that's where my brain is going, because I am lazy with math. But if you're working with a classroom, this is a great exercise. I'm not sure I ever taught ratios.
Yeah,
To my
I mean,
fifth graders.
it's baking. If you are a teacher and you want to find a way to get kids to understand division, baking is a great way to do it. Although, do be careful, anything that's strictly ratio based can turn into way too much of whatever you're making. I've got another book here, which is specifically baking through ratios. There we go.
Yeah.
Great book. I got it when I was 12 and ended up making like 150 cream puffs. It was way too much. So think over what sounds reasonable. If it calls for 10 pounds of flour, it's too much.
Right. Good to know.
So you've mixed together our flour, our water, and salt, and the starter. And at this point, your dough should be pretty, moist, doughy, and sticky. A lot of people think of bread dough being that firm, smooth consistency that you see a lot, makes for great pictures. But that's really only until you get to the very end stage. So right now, our very beginning, our first mix of dough it should look and feel a little bit stickier and less wet than, say, a muffin dough or a thick pancake dough. And this is where you're going to leave it for, depending on the temperature, you're going to want to leave it maybe 2 hours to, I'd say, 6 hours in a really cold climate. And then after that period of time, you're going to be looking for it to have not quite doubled in size, but it should definitely look less wet. It should be starting to get towards a firmer, smoother texture, less of the sort of really sticky glue-like consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should hold together a lot better too. So we're gonna let this go for an hour or so, check on it every 45 minutes. And then once it looks like it's somewhere near double, you're going to simply take the dough, fold it over on itself. Again, this is too sticky. Fold it over on itself a couple of times, being really gentle. You don't really want to work out any of the gases.
Hmm. Yeah.
You want to let all of the carbon dioxide to stick around. If you smash it all out every time, then again, it won't rise at when you go to bake it. It'll be really flat and more like naan bread than a loaf of French bread.
Not necessarily a bummer
No,
if it's not
it's not terrible.
delicious.
Cool. Is there anything else?
I'm trying to think. So we'll keep checking on it every 45 minutes, and the fold over happens at.
That'll happen probably around an hour. Although because our starter was a bit younger, it might be
Mhm.
closer to 2 hours.
Okay.
So for you guys using a fully mature starter, I'd say it should be to the place where you want to do that first fold after 50 to 75 minutes. And then you're gonna set it off, let it do its thing for another this time it's gonna take a little bit longer because as you're doing the folds and time, it develops more gluten, so it holds together better. So as it goes on, it's going to take a little more time, and you're going to want to do that same folding process a second time.
Okay. All right, I will videotape us
Yeah.
doing that in the next couple hours then. That'll be a good one to check. So for any of you who are joining us now and are thinking through how to do this for yourself, I will complete the recipe for you and we'll show when it's ready. Do you need it like a regular thing of?
No.
Okay.
So so this kneading is for this kind of bread is very gentle. We're not working in anything like we're not working in any butter or oil or anything. So if you over knead it, it's not going to rise very well, and it will be very dense and chewy. So
Delightful.
the key with
Not so much.
this kind of sourdough bread is that it's very delicate to work with. It's not like
Pizza dough?
yeah, it's not like pizza dough. You're not slapping it around and punching it down. You're very gently bringing it together.
Nice. All right, cool. I'm excited for that process. We are about 4 minutes out from the top, so I'll start closing us out. And if you want to put that in the fridge or wash your hands or something, I don't know, whichever thing you want to do. I'll go ahead and stop this video for a minute. Awesome. Okay. So thank you everyone who's joining us. I'm going to close this out with a couple of things. Email us a copy of the chat. Yeah, sure. Yeah, for anyone who registered for this event, we'll send a follow-up email and I'll include the chat for this one. Yeah. There's a lot of good links and some nice little questions from people, although we didn't answer in the chat, so hopefully still helpful. Awesome. Were there any leftover questions or anything we didn't cover that was on anyone's mind? Books mentioned. Oh, sure. Yeah, we are not, just FYI, SciStarter and myself and Alex, we're not sponsored or anyone by these. These are just what he had in his bookshelf. They're just.
Yeah, the cookbooks are just books I really like. They've got
Jeffrey.
that one is specifically bread. I believe he won a James Beard Award for it. So
I don't know.
in
what that
America,
is.
that's a good thing to look for in a cookbook.
James Beard. Okay.
And then the other one's just
Ratio.
a really good way to get people thinking about the math behind baking.
This one is Ratio, the simple codes behind the craft of everyday cooking. Michael Ruhlman, author of The Elements of Cooking. My favorite part, if anyone has teacher friends that you need a gift for, look at the ratio thing at the top. It tells you everything. It's very cool. Can't really see super clearly on here, but it's like pie dough, biscuit, and tells you the ratio for everything. Flour, liquid, fat, sugar, egg, etc. So pretty cool. I'm gonna just dump everything on the countertop. That'd be great. I'll add those books to the follow-up email too, because I didn't write them down. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Mary. All right, anything, Roland, just double checking, anything on the chat in Facebook that I still need to address, or are we covered there? Sweet,
No.
okay. Yay. Okay, so in that case, I will close this out. So next week we won't be live with you all, but we are having an event or a push for watching the last year we did an event with all of us, which is a medical research study where everyone can be involved in improving medical research in the US. So if you're interested in watching that one, we'll be promoting it, so you'll catch it on our socials soon enough. We also want to promote always for you all to watch our Do NASA Science Live series that we have. It's an occasional series that's live, like SciStarter Live, where we talk to NASA scientists. The most recent one was about the preparing for the eclipses. So if any of you were like, oh my gosh, the October eclipse was awesome, what do I do next? There's one in April. So please go back and watch that episode so you can be prepared for April as well. There's at least 2 of them that are incredibly conducive, really helpful for anyone who is interested in joining, not necessarily on the line of totality. So always good there. Cool. As always, we have a million resources for you and we want you to use them. So if you have any questions, first and foremost, there are resources like asking the community on the website for SciStarter, asking project leaders on specific project pages. You can do that for Sourdough for Science. You can find different projects on our Finder. You can take a training. You can listen to our podcast, which most recently it's coming out is the health-oriented one, which will talk about all of us, the research project, and a couple others, including Outbreaks Near Me, which we talked about last week on SciStarter Live. And so that one is a very, very solid one that you'll hear from soon. And you can always email us at info@scistarter.org. Myself and Roland are 2 of the people who look at those emails, so we're happy to help. Lastly, we will be live again on November 28th, so we will see you then. You can keep tabs on us by going to our blog site as well to learn more about what's coming up next. So looking forward to seeing you all the next time. I wish you all luck with your sourdough bread making. I will keep you updated on our steps. And for anyone who heard random noises during this call, the dog was crying that we were paying attention to something other than her. So sorry about that if anyone was hearing things. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us and we'll see you next time. Bye.